Kuzusambo and a very warm welcome. You're watching Bhutan This Week, a weekly news magazine program with me, Srinder Magalson. Our top stories. His Majesty the King talked to almost 2,000 graduates at the 11th convocation ceremony. Her Majesty the Gyaltsen inaugurated the second Royal Bhutan Flower Exhibition in Paro. And the National Council says the Anti-Corruption Commission needs to be financially secured with its prime donor agency moving out by September. His Majesty the King graced the 11th convocation ceremony in the capital. Almost 2,000 graduates, including masters and postgraduates, attended the ceremony to receive their graduation certificates.
The event was organized at the Royal Institute of Management. Graduates of 2015 listened to His Majesty the King talking about various issues concerning the country.
We need to focus on higher standards. Whatever we do, we got to do it better. Good is not good enough. Simple rule, but yet impactful. Kachira beru, tariwa nabatap, nabawa nasetap. Puchedi ya sengol. Second thing, we can never go wrong if we invest in human resource and in building intelligent institutions. Ngachi misu kade tada chodup chen zogobel. What we lack in numbers, we must make up with talent. Because we are too small, we cannot compete with large countries. And that is the reason why we must make up with talent.
His Majesty also said the graduates are the guardian of peace and stability.
You must never forget that you all are the guardians of our peace and stability. If our country is divided, it will be the beginning of many, many bad things to follow, sir. Our strength comes from unity, collectivism. Divided, we fall. United, we stand. Labdazumbel. Gekab chundigi, nyankalashu, machi dingjibe, chimchinagi sasazumbe dishugo. The ani, charata choyente tata, genbak, labi kablu, semkatenasa. You all are also the custodians of our national identity. Whether you are of Nepalese origin, Tibetan origin, whether you speak Khenka, Bumtap, whether you're Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, make sure that there is one identity that transcends every division in one's life. And that identity has to be common. Kaira ngachi dupi se lapsupe diogosa. Dupi se guto nangka sendi be diogol. Dupi se ngachi genka hakogosa. And lastly, your capabilities and predisposition towards hard work will invariably shape the future of Bhutan. So ani boda chegi chudu the trick dibe ngachi ki maungpagi netang di jonsa. If you all are not hardworking, if you all lack integrity, if you all are not industrious, or in other words, if you are lazy, if there is a growing sense of entitlement, laziness, if you're not working hard, then no matter what former government did, this government will strive to achieve, and successive governments, doesn't matter. Ngachi gyakab na lu gap rimju ki chala kadibeze. Chotik dibe masu rilu na lu jungi pyonga ki genbak chashu. Chala kaji zeru ze tanjulu 마치르기 나준 초윤투 따서미수 지게 맞춰버진 마음번에던 딜레지메절 때라 지게 쳐버진 때 마음번에던 딜 라지기 빌레짐 되올 so jura ani jemasosa.
His Majesty the King also said the government can function very efficiently since the country has a small population.
The distance between those who serve our country and people is very narrow, sir. Satora mindul. Rojanga boji 2.2 million zubegale pami phebaila cheji joru phemisul. Ngachi elected representatives kairata gese. Toto bojin di LG, NA, NC kairati jabachin. I think close to over 1,600 yul. But some people chigale 1,700 chigayong. Aniti paptabe bodolo. There is one elected representative to 380 citizens. Dangachi politicians rata madugi ngachi shiobsu sajta gese. Di tingang annamasame yi chele. Among every 14 citizens, there is one civil servant or public servant whose career is to provide essential services to our people, whose job and task is to look after our people's needs. Gyakab chumi galedi anizumgi kepen lashe tembal. I am astonished with how wonderful it is to be small. Gyakab chungube. Maname samet tilu yicheyul.
The convocation ceremony ended with Tashimelam and a photo session. Compiled for Changadoji, Sunampem for BBS News.
His Majesty the King granted an audience to the King and Queen of Sweden. Their Majesties King Carl XVI Gustav and Queen Sylvia were in the country on a 4-day visit.
On arrival at the courtyard of the Dzong, the Guard of Honor was presented by the Royal Bodyguards, Royal Bhutan Police and Royal Bhutan Army. The Majesties were then ushered to the throne room where His Majesty the King granted an audience. Her Majesty the Gelson was also present during the audience. King Carl XVI Gustav grew up in a family with 4 sisters as the only son of Prince Gustav Adolf. The Swedish king married Queen Sylvia in 1976. The royal couple has 3 children. Towards the evening, the Majesties also met with Prime Minister Sringtobge and a few cabinet ministers. The Majesties arrived in the country earlier today. At the Poro International Airport, Her Royal Highness Princess Dichin Yangzum Wangchuk and Princess Kyazang Chorin Wangchuk received their Majesties. Upon arrival in Thimphu, Lempo Tsengkap Dorji, Chairman of the Royal Privy Council, received the royal couple. For Tringzam, Kilyangton for BBS News.
His Majesty the Fourth Druk Gyalpo also granted an audience to their Majesties. Their Majesties the King and Queen of Sweden graced the inaugural session of Bhutan-Sweden Cooperation Forum and visited Royal Textile Academy and Kunselfoda.
His Majesty the Fourth Duke Galpo granted an audience to His Majesty the King Carl XVI Gustaf and Her Majesty the Queen Sylvia of Sweden at the Dissencholing Palace. Their Majesties the Queen Mothers and their Royal Highnesses the Prince and Princesses were also present at the audience. His Majesty the King Carl XVI Gustaf and Her Majesty the Queen Sylvia graced the inaugural of the Bhutan-Sweden Cooperation Forum earlier this morning. Prime Minister Srin Tobgay received their Majesties. Prime Minister Srin Tobgay described their Majesties' state visit to Bhutan as historic. Lynchen highlighted that the visit will reinforce the friendship bond between Sweden and Bhutan. Bhutan and Sweden established diplomatic relations in 1985. Following the inaugural ceremony, their Majesties were then ushered to the courtyard of the hotel where Bhutanese wood products and organic food exports were displayed. His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen of Sweden also visited the Royal Textile Academy. Royal collections and other Bhutanese textiles were on display. Towards the evening, their Majesties visited the Buddha Dodema at Quincelpodong. Their Majesties also walked through the Quincelpodong Nature Park. Compiled for Kileande, Sringzam, BBS News.
Coinciding with the 26th birth anniversary of Her Majesty the Gelsin, Her Majesty inaugurated the second Royal Bhutan Flower Exhibition in Paro. The exhibition was also attended by His Majesty the King, His Majesty the Fourth Duke Gyalpo and His Royal Highness the Gese. Their Majesties the Queen Mothers, other members of the royal family were also present at the event.
The second Royal Bhutan Flower Exhibition is held at the Ugen Pelri Palace in Paro. Her Majesty the Gyaltsen offered a butter lamp and also launched the Queen of Bhutan roses. The Queen of Bhutan roses were presented to His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Gyaltsen by their Royal Highnesses the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge on their last visit to Bhutan. Following the launch, their Majesties personally visited every garden. On an extended area of 18 acres of land, this year's exhibition comprises of 8 participating teams. International teams from Japan and Thailand are also taking part in the exhibition this year. The Japanese garden displays traditional Japanese tea ceremony. The garden also showcases 120 years old bonsai tree. Bonsai is a very small tree grown in a small container. Meanwhile, the Thai garden is an exchange program between the Royal Project Bhutan and the Royal Project Foundation Thailand. The garden displays cut flowers, organic vegetables, temperate fruits and other canned products. 6 Bhutanese teams showcased varieties of flowers, organic gardens, traditional lifestyle with animals, plants and models. The gardens also display over 1,000 varieties of flowers and plant species. Among the many plant and flower species put on display was the Bhutanese bonsai, which is estimated to be 113 years old. Over 50 species of orchids are also at the exhibition. 2 additional artistic models of the magnificent Drugal Dzong and Pangbisa Royal Academy are also part of this year's exhibition. The Royal Bhutan Flower Exhibition was initiated upon the command of His Majesty the King. Her Majesty the Queen Mother Sringyandan Wangchuk is the royal patron of the exhibition. The 5-day Royal Bhutan Flower Exhibition will be opened for public beginning tomorrow. Compiled for Pub Game, this is Tandon Finso for BBS News.
The National Council stressed on the need to strengthen the financial security of the Anti-Corruption Commission. This came up after knowing that ACC's prime donor agency, the Swiss Development Bank Corporation, is phasing out its financial support in September this year. Donor agencies provided 58% of ACC's yearly budget so far.
The National Council member from Wandipodong pointed out it is important for the government to provide adequate fund to Anti-Corruption Commission now. For the financial year 2016-17, the ACC proposed a budget of some 133 million neutrum, but the government agreed to provide 123 million neutrum.
콩라로 땡엘레기 릭베로다 가치기 텔레베로라 당댕이 톨레 제미기 쭉대치 때 빼튼시기 쭉대치 이말레 땡디기베 때 콩라기 다음줄로 창일대 곱자우데서 베로에 칠레 계획이 때 다음줄로 맞춥디 가치기 맞춥베라 지자고세 슈니라 때 콩라 카툴 베로에 주비기 때 독바디 가라기 베로 미샤세 슈니 다니 주미디 베로에 때 지속이 카툴레 베로에 때 로콩라이 가 주미디 차주 룸니 마도 때 마도니다 때 곱 미노세미디 때 자탑 맵집에
다tunga chigi ni yebigi team di mimang itu jatim la public finance act di tardu bedol ta theribare di nga chigi garagi di japchuji du de begobi ime adi nga chigi da theribare begoba chen garagi honle da tekarbe devil zum jipi wachen la tengele kabdum nechogi beshinalera khonagi honlebe dezumegi devil ji la proposal ji mimang itu jatim gi tolebe juji tinin begodi beru beni bela khonalo ngiten be nyungthagi mangneldi The
House instructed the Good Governance Committee and members to discuss and present the outcome on Friday. Kilyangden for BBS News.
The construction of the controversial 56 kilometers Shinkar-Gorgan highway has begun from Hlunsi. The government said this during the Meet the Press session. This time, only 18 kilometers of the road will pass through the core area of the Prumshingla National Park, home to the Bengal tigers and other endangered animals. Earlier, about 50 kilometers of the road passed through the core area. The road will cut short the distance between Hlunsi and Bhutan by 100 kilometers. The highway is being constructed at a cost of 746 million newton. The highway is from Shinghar in Bhutan to Gorgan in Hlunsi. The politicians and environmentalists have been at loggerheads over the construction.
Nakara lingka na leba jogo baba tani jogo ni dinale tamara nga chigi lamde achti khatele da alignment chi khatele benada to na sanam lembu gi shude te ani zumbe ani tashimle dele nga chi stretch by delen pa gorgan gi khatele omachin pepsu chinti di environment clearance namsim kangilami te ani di lameyu dare ta chi shudo zumbe inga chi machine zube ta ani di su clear be te phale cutting be ni gi gutsu se da kaje chinbe ta khong gutsu.
Just now, because it is crossing through the central part of the park, the movement of the animal, be it keystone species such as the tiger, panda, kachira beberura, ani never do shunibilla. But if you use the alternate, and I think conservationists will also agree.
Atichi ngengo ki shipsel ta bodalu pa shinkar gorgon le judalu tumshingla zumchi km cha sewime te ani benitigi thaya nale thung tabe anale diule tendigi be ngache kholam te ngoma ani anyu juigale te tatu tumshingla gedigi be te gari debe dudul be mi jumi mio se shuni ta sengor phasu te dumi chechap te pumdalu omdalu timpulu omdalu te lam anale tha thun mashe jemisudi shinkar gorgon le anyu.
Agriculture Ministry said chemical content in the locally grown vegetables and grains are low compared to imported ones. The Agriculture Ministry said there is less use of chemical in the naturally produced vegetables.
The Agriculture Minister said except for asparagus, all other vegetables grown in the country are not considered organic.
I can assure that the vegetables which are grown and sold from our farmers, it may not be 100% chemical free, but at least it's below the optimal limit. And we don't use that organic use benirame because organic has to follow certain criteria and standard, but we say it's a naturally grown vegetables.
Lembo said Bhutanese farmers use chemicals only when there is outbreak of pests. However, chemicals are mostly used for rice cultivation in western parts of the country. Bhutan Agriculture and Food Regulatory Authority officials are randomly testing the chemical content of the naturally grown vegetables and grains in the country. Import of chemicals is also being monitored. The Agriculture Ministry will also accelerate the winter vegetables production and maximize the availability of vegetables.
In the winter, the southern region is the most suitable. In summer, southern, because of the heavy rain, the vegetables are very limited. And our temperate zone and the high altitude are best for the summer vegetables. So in the winter, what we are thinking is now, we have already started the work in Hamuzinka, in Bangtar, in Jomosangka, and also even in Wangdi and Aninalu. So there we are going to have the a large extensive area for different types of vegetables. That is one strategy.
Today, locally produced vegetables are available in the market for 9 months in a year. Meanwhile, the temporary ban on cauliflower and beans still continues due to high content of pesticides. Sringzam, BBS News.
1 year from now, the Education Ministry aims to make 70% of the teachers satisfied with their profession. A recent survey conducted by the ministry shows out of about 9,000 teachers in the country, only 45% are satisfied with their career.
The Education Ministry said they have many planned programs to improve teachers' competence and to motivate them.
te dare nga chege lokhang na lepa classroom na lepa lopten be bodalu te dafu gi lopten bethang gi te thabju dira te lalin thabdi gi betu seshuni te digidi nga che lobe nga chege loptu busulu te name samet sheri gi den jani gi nalu te to bombera poni gi te ngenka debe tomme seshuni dyuchi gi lo nalu namlo niktung chudu gi lo nalu te lobe rere shindulu densangi pedagogy ngachigi lopten gi thabju te rikpa sapi te hani ngachigi jongdar lebe rerelu te pinigi te dadip te bedigi be ye sessionila.
Another move will be to get each and every teachers educated with a master's degree. The move will start from next year with the establishment of the Master's Degree College for the teachers in Yunfula in Tashigang.
Paro the samsidia te dalepa ngachigi jogebe te khoya the choktu jurbagi the chukdechi be center of excellence be the parodi the ngachigi dato the thekar the parodi maths ki center of excellence be for the teachers aniben osam tambiga ye seshuni the samsigi theka hebdalu chenrik gi the center for excellence science ki subject ki be the yongfla di the language ki be podalu the khara chikzungbe lejimbe the jotsubi ki charshizomchibe the debe jeume seshunil.
Recently, a budget of 117 million UTM has been approved to enhance the skills of teachers. Sringdoma Galson, BBS News.
That's all we have for you this week. Thank you for joining us. This is Sringdoma Galson saying goodbye.